Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another YouTube video. Today, I have an awesome theory for you guys. It's not very confusing or complex. It's honestly pretty fun to think about, and I think a lot of you guys will resonate with it because it has something to do with Star Wars. I know that may sound crazy, but just hear me out. But before I talk about that, make sure to drop a like on the video, subscribe, turn on notifications. Over 80% of you guys who watch my videos are not subscribed, so if you could hit that sub button, that would mean the world to me. And I also have my Discord and my socials down below if you want to join those, or follow me on socials and join my Discord. But yeah, guys, without further ado, let me get into this theory. So the reason I said it has something to do with Star Wars is because Vecna and Vader, both villains by the way, had similar character development to their storylines, right? They both started out as kids, then they went to being men in their in their 20s or whatever it was, and then they ended up being the ultimate villain. Henry turned into Vecna, and then Anakin, I never watched Star Wars, I'm sorry, turned into Vader. I know that might sound crazy, I never watched Star Wars, I will eventually, don't worry. But he turned into Vader. So whenever I seen that similarities between Vader and Vecna, we all know the storyline of what happened in Star Wars. If you haven't seen Star Wars, spoiler alert, I haven't seen Star Wars, but I know what happens, obviously, it's been out for 40 years. So basically what happens is Luke gets attacked by the Emperor, and Darth sacrifices himself for Luke. Even though Darth was the villain for a long time, he ends up sacrificing himself for Luke when the Emperor attacks Luke. So that reminded me of a possibility with Vecna and 11. We've already seen similarities of the Duffer Brothers taking stuff from the 80s in different movies like that, right? So it would make sense if L was going to get attacked by another villain, that Vecna, he has that sweet spot. We all know Vecna. Let's talk about that for a little bit. We all know Vecna has a sweet spot. We all know he's still Henry deep down inside of him, and it's pretty obvious. We've seen the whole background. He had a soft spot for L. I think it'll be the same scenario with Vader and Skywalker. I think it'll be the same scenario or similar scenario, because in the lab back in the day, all the flashbacks we've seen, Henry clearly had a soft spot for Elle. She was the chosen one, So in Star Wars, Vader saves Skywalker. In Stranger Things, Vecna will save 11. But how will Vecna save 11? Who is he saving her from? He's the villain. So is he saving her from himself? No. This is where the theory gets interesting, because we're trying to figure out right now is there going to be another villain? We've seen the dragon on Will's painting, right? We've seen the dragon. That's all fine and dandy, right? Well, when Nancy was in a trance, when Vecna had Nancy in a trance, he showed her a character, or a monster or something with a gaping mouth, and said there's gonna be hundreds of monsters coming out of them or whatever. She just said there's gonna be an army and a monster. Okay, so that got me thinking. Army, monster, Stranger Things based off D&D. There's a monster in D&D that's this, I don't know how to pronounce it. It's like Laogzed, I think. You spell it Laogzed. I'll put a picture of him on the screen, or her, I don't know what it is. It's a monster. But this monster is the Devourer of Worlds, and it has a gaping mouth, as you can see on the screen. It has a gaping mouth, but that's not the most important part. This is where the theory's like, wow, that's awesome. If that happens, this is going to be amazing. In season 1, when the boys were doing their first D&D game of the entire show, okay, we know that Duffers are definitely they've already used stuff from the D&D games in the show to foreshadow stuff that's going to happen. So, the first D&D game, it makes sense to foreshadow the end of the show. That makes sense. So, in the first D&D game, Mike says, an army of troglodytes will charge into the chamber. The reason that's a big deal is because this monster above my head right now is followed by an army of troglodytes in D&D. So what if Vecna builds this army up? He builds this army up to finally destroy 11 and take over the world and, allow the Upside Down to go into the real world. What if he builds an army so powerful that it's almost too strong to stop, with just for L, you know what I'm saying? And then he realizes that he's in the wrong, whatever. There's going to be that whole scenario, and he always had that soft spot, whatever. So what if he recruits a monster like this, or makes a monster like this, and then the army of troglodytes or whatever, and then they get into the scenario where it's like the last episode of season 5, and Eleven's there with her crew, and then Vecna's there with his army, and then he realizes he's in the wrong, whatever, and then Vecna sacrifices himself for 11. That's my prediction. Basically, essentially, the theory is that Vecna will build an army to destroy 11, realize that he's in the wrong, and then have to sacrifice himself for 11 by killing his own army. And the army is the Munson, the troglodytes. I want to know what you guys think about this theory. It definitely does make sense. It definitely 100% does make sense. And it makes even more sense when I mention season 1. I feel like something out of that first game is definitely going to predict something that's going to happen in the season 5. It only makes sense. It only makes sense. I mean, here's my prediction. I think every single D&D game that happened in Stranger Things is going to take a role in the end of season 5. So we had the season 1 Army of Troglodytes. That's one from the season 1. We have the season 3 one, Will the Wise. Will's gonna have powers. It's pretty obvious. If Will doesn't have powers, he's either gonna have powers or he's gonna have some sort of role like a wizard that he was playing in D&D. And then season 4, I'm not totally sure, but we've seen that 8 might come back. There's a lot of things that happen in the season 4 game that might foreshadow. But either way, I think each game in Stranger Things of D&D is going to predict the end of Stranger Things because the whole entire show is based off of a game of D&D. So it only makes sense. And this one definitely makes a lot of sense in my opinion. The similarities between Vecna and Vader and Skywalker and 11 make a lot of sense in my opinion. They make a ton of sense. And I think like we all agree that Vecna has a sweet spot for 11. And just he was a human. He was a regular kid at one point. So he obviously has some sort of emotion. So I think I think this is definitely possible. I think it is. I think 100%. And I don't know. Maybe it's not. Maybe I'm crazy and Vecna's they're just gonna kill Vecna. I don't know. But let me know what you guys think about this theory. Let me know in the comments your theories for the end of season 5. I might make more. I was going to do like a cool edit video to this, but like I couldn't just like type all that out what I just said. You know what I'm saying? I had to sit here and talk about it. So I apologize for like the lack of like, I don't know, cinematic suspense for the theory. But I really wanted to explain it in my own words. But let me know what you think about this theory. Make sure to drop a like, subscribe, turn on notifications, join my Discord, guys. It's a fairly new Discord. I got about 50 members in there. You can join. I'm active in there every day. We talk about theories, much more. So join the Discord and spend time with your friends and family. And I will see you guys in the next one. Peace out.